I talked about the food chain supply bill, and food security is paramount to everyone, not alone the farmers, but to the consumers. And we all see what have happened with the fertiliser, and it is my belief that the cartel that has been operated by the larger co-ops in this country that have ensured that the cost of fertiliser went to the highest that it could. And we see even this year again, even with the price of gas coming down, that they're still trying to make an argument that because they bought the fertiliser dear at the back end of last year, 2022, that they're entitled to charge as much as they can get for it at the present time. And if it wasn't for the fact that fertiliser became available at a cheaper price in the north of Ireland, and that we could see that the same thing was happening in the UK, it would be still at an exorbitant price. But what these co-ops have not told us, they're telling us that they bought this year's fertiliser at a dear price at the back end of 2022. They didn't tell us that they bought the fertiliser at a much cheaper price at the end of 2021, and they held it up and held on to it. They wouldn't even quote or give it out in March of last year, 2022, and until the price went up further. And I mean, to me, this is unfair trading, and it's treating our farmers with contempt. It's treating the consumers, the housewife, with contempt, because that's what has happened. Because the farmers couldn't sustain the extra cost without driving up the cost of their produce as they were finish it and produce it. They had to drive up the cost to cover their own expense in in the operations, whether it was dairy or beef or whatever it was. And ministers, I'm asking you now, here in this chamber this evening, to carry out a high-level investigation on these co-ops. Because when we talk about the larger co-ops, these are the very people in the last couple of months that were trying to get the suppliers not to supply the smaller merchants, who we thank here in this chamber tonight for supplying fertiliser much cheaper than the larger co-ops. And there is and has been unfair trading going on in this regard, and it has to be called out, ministers. You have to do something about it. I raised it with Taoiseach Leo a couple of months ago. He came back to me with a letter following my leader's question, saying that these co-ops were justified in charging what they were charging because that they bought it dear at the end of last year. But he wasn't able to go back far enough to see what they did or what happened at the end of 2021. So both of you ministers, I'm calling on you to do something about this and ensure that something like this never happens in this country again. I'm also calling for an investigation into another matter, ministers, and that is the cost of green diesel, because farmers can't operate without green diesel. And the price of green diesel went up a way higher per litre than white diesel. And as I understand it, there's no difference between the quality of white diesel and green diesel for driving, whether it is a lorry or whether it is a tractor. There's no difference in the quality, only the dye that's put into it. And I can't understand, or farmers can't understand, why white diesel is at a cost now that it shouldn't be. The green diesel is at a cost now, that it shouldn't be. Because we see and we are thankful that it has reduced the cost of fuel road diesel and petrol, it has reduced, but it needs to reduce more. But at the same time, the green diesel has not gone down to the level that it should be, because we still know there's something happened, or something has happened, and we need to get an explanation for the farmers, because again, the farmers can't sustain the extra cost without adding their extra cost onto the food that they're producing. And here in this chamber again, ministers, I want to thank our farmers right around the country for the wonderful food that they're supplying, whether it is dairy or beef products, whatever it is, at the highest level and the highest standard, and they're maintaining their environment requirements to the highest standard. And I resent and reject the Citizens' Assembly on biodiversity that insisted, or that are insisting, that farmers should be taxed more on their produce, and that the subsidies that they get from Europe in the post, that these subsidies should be reduced. I want to remind those people that the subsidies are not a gift. They're an entitlement by the entitlement that the farmers are entitled to for producing food at a cheaper price, and to compensate them for not being properly paid for the food, whether it is beef or dairy, that they're producing. And I resent that statement by them a couple of weeks ago, and I'm glad to get the opportunity here to condemn them for that, because the one, the farmer in them that voted and passed that motion at whatever sham assembly that they were put into, and that was set up here by this government, because there's only one assembly that I believe is correct, is the people that are elected. Those people were elected by nobody. We're elected in here, and we have the citizens.
We're over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless John.
I shocked to Matty McGrath.